It is day 23 of Flippin Live. My name is Andrew from 510 Books. This is May 25th, 2020. Let's get started talking about 4 reasons to start reselling on Amazon FBA.
Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're gonna strive, we're here to learn and gonna earn. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, we're flippin' live.
Good morning to those who are here on day 23 of Flippin Live. Again, my name is Andrew from 510 Books, and we are going live every morning during quarantine. This video I wanted to be about, kind of make this week about reselling on Amazon, and started off with sharing with you guys, especially if you're watching this in the future and you're new. I appreciate everybody that comes on here every day and watches live, and good morning to everybody that is here right now. I wanted to share four reasons to resell books specifically on Amazon. There's all types of stuff you can resell on Amazon, but books is how I got started, and how I recommend new sellers get started on Amazon is to open an account and start sending in books. I'm talking about the FBA program. Merchant Fulfilled is another part of Amazon that you can do, but I recommend starting with FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon, and being one of those prime sellers. And I want to start talking about the four big reasons that most important reasons to resell books on Amazon, and these really apply still today. I started reselling almost 6 years ago, and I'm still reselling books till this day, including I've added many other types of media, but books are a great way to get get your foot in the door and get experience reselling on Amazon, and learn learn the process of sourcing, of listing, preparing and sending shipments, and then how to navigate the website as well, and that type of thing, and see sales come in. So let me start going over the 4 reasons, and I'll say again, good morning to everybody that is here. Yeah, so we got a couple people listing on Amazon. FBA is still, Amazon will always be a challenge, but FBA is still valid. It's still an opportunity out there, and here's some reasons. I continue to sell on Amazon. I still had sales yesterday. I had sales over the weekend on Amazon through FBA, even though I have not been shipping in regularly, and even though my inventory for me is relatively at a low level, to where it's usually been over the years. But the money keeps rolling in. When I send in shipments, my sales go up because I have new items hit the warehouse and go live. So it's still a very great business. It's an awesome business opportunity. And I'm not, this is not me. I'm not a representative of Amazon. It's just my experience. And I feel it's one of the better business opportunities for new resellers, or just people looking to make extra income. So the first reason I would say is, and there's 4 big reasons that I'm going to cover, and then I actually have a 5th one that I thought of, or that is important as well, that I'll throw in there. The first one is that Amazon has low, or reselling on books on Amazon FBA is low barriers to entry, low cost to start out. When you think about when you think about other types of business opportunities, if you're looking at this as a newbie, if you've heard about it, you've stumbled across it like I did almost 6 years ago, and started doing research, and what's this whole thing? Of course I know about Amazon, but I didn't realize you could actually sell books for money, actual money on Amazon, and actually make some money, and not just make a few pennies. So So yeah, low barriers to entry. There's no, of course, there's no experience, and there's very little money. It's a pretty simple process. I know some jaded veterans might say, "Ha, simple, right?" But it is pretty straightforward. Amazon has some hoops, that's for sure, like any business. But when you compare it to other types of, I mean, think of any business opportunity right now off the top of your head that you can start with very little money. And by very little money, I mean a couple $100. I don't mean a couple $1,000. I mean a couple $100. And you can start the process, and within a month, you can already start generating some sort of extra income, and are already started learning the process without having to jump through a bunch of hoops or having to wait a very long time to start the process and to see actual returns. Um, some of the things. So when I say low barriers of entry, what I mean is you don't need experience, you don't need a degree, you don't need, well, a lot of business opportunities you don't need a degree, but you don't need experience. You don't need to know somebody. All you need to do is just sign up or get a seller's account on Amazon, and then start sourcing books, i.e., finding books that you can buy for cheap and resell for more money. A few things you need, which most people have, is you need a computer. Whether it's a desktop or laptop, it doesn't matter. You need a computer to be able to set up your account, to be able to list, to be able to prepare your shipments. You need of course, then you also need a printer with papers, a few boxes to put together some shipments, tape, packing tape, um, and of course, you need a cell phone when to go sourcing. You can start with a free Amazon sellers app, which I started with almost 6 years ago. I only used that for the first year or so. I was stubborn. I recommend sooner than later getting even the $9.99 a month Scoutly, which is from a seller tools, seller tools, is a scouting app that gives you way more information. But you can still start with a free app, with Amazon's free app, just to get a general idea of how things work, and seeing all the information that even just Amazon gives you, and understanding what it means, which is not what this video is about, but because that's of course part of it. So all those basic things. That's really all you need. Computer, printer, boxes, tape, a cell phone. With a data plan, of course, which just about everybody has these days, and download the app for free and have it connected to your account, and you can start going out there and sourcing used books to then ship into Amazon. I would say, so the thing is, books are cheap, right? Which is why you don't need that much money. Low barriers to entry. Basically, just need to have a checking account. Um, have your basic information. You set up your account, and then you can start reselling books. Um, uh, you probably need, I would say, on the low end, 100, $200 to start. And what most of that money is going to be for is just buying books at a cheap rate. Usually as low as like 50 cents, as much as maybe $2 to $3. I would try to stay in the $1 to $2 range, and then so that you can turn around and sell those for 10, 15, 20 and up, of course. Hopefully you find much more profitable books. Um, but I would not try to go much more above $2 or $3 per book, especially when you're first starting out, because you don't know exactly what you should be buying and flipping on Amazon. Um, but most books, in my experience, it's going to vary by where you live and the type of options you have for buying books. But I would try to stay in that range. And generally, books are pretty cheap in my experience. I've even seen them as low as 25 cents a piece, but on average, about $1. Sometimes they can creep up to $2. Sometimes they can go down to 50 cents. Depends on the sale, depends on where you live, depends on a lot of different factors. But generally speaking, I would say in the $1 to $3 range, probably closer to $1 has been my experience. So you figure if you've got $100 to start out, maybe you go out there and you start sourcing and start trying to understand how that works and what types of books you should look for, what ones are selling for more money. Excuse me. And then you spend, let's say, $50 on roughly 40 to 50 books, unless the books are expensive in your area, which I would hope not. that they're not like $3 or $4. But if you can keep that cost of goods, or COGS, cost of goods, low, around $1 or $2 at most. So let's say $1. Let's just use a simple example of $1, 50 books, $50. And then you go back home and you've got to prepare the books. So you've got to list them on Amazon, which is a whole other process. But once you learn that process, it's pretty simple. It's a little slower going through Amazon's website. This is when you start being able to streamline your process. But first of all, just use Amazon for free, right? You can just list them. You can type in the ISBNs, which will take a little bit of time compared to someone like me who has a scanner, a barcode scanner at home, and he uses a separate software. But initially, you don't need to spend that money. You can just use the Amazon website, which is what I did, and still made money in the beginning. And that helps you. Plus, that helps you get your hands dirty and learn how to list items and how that whole thing works within the website. And then you have to pay for inbound shipping. So you're going to have to pay to ship that first. Let's say you have 50 books, well, whatever, 40 books in one box. It can't be over 50 pounds. Remember that. So you can't try to ship off 100 books in one box. It can't be more than 50 pounds per box. So anyway, try to keep it below 50 pounds. I would say about 40 books, let's say, and then you can create another shipment if you have another bunch of books, 100 books or something. Anyway, that's another conversation, not get too detailed. And then, so you have to pay for that. So if you live in California, let's say where I am, and I have to ship it all the way to New Jersey, that's going to be more. But it's a deeply discounted rate because it's through UPS. And if I have to ship across the country, I mean, maybe it's going to depend. It's going to vary how heavy the box is, but you may have to spend $10, $15. But if it stays pretty close to where you are, like I usually spend around $4 to $7 if it's a heavier box, about $5, $6, because it stays within the state of California. But sometimes I've had to ship across the country many times, and you have to pay a little bit extra money. So that's why I say a couple $100, and then once you ship out that, let's say you spend $50 on your first 50 books, spend another $10, 20, let's say 10, $15, so you're about $70 in, and then you ship those in, got to wait for them to arrive, go live, and then hopefully start making some sales. And then you go back out and you spend some more money on other books and just rinse and repeat. So it's a pretty basic situation. Yeah, so a couple people commenting, which is awesome. I will get back talking about textbooks. Yes, absolutely. Whatever books you can find that'll make you money is a good idea. But if you can find higher priced books such as textbooks, educational type books, then that is the way to go. But if you find a book that you can buy for $1, and then because there are Amazon fees, after all of those fees and everything taken into consideration and what you spend on it, if you can make at least $5, turn $1 into $5 of profit, right? No brainer. So now number 2, what was number 2? So first of all, right? Low barriers to entry, low costs to start. Low starting cost. I guess I should have phrased that differently. You don't need much money. I would recommend at least like minimum $100 to just get your first shipment out. Maybe a couple of small shipments. And then if you don't have much money left, $20 here, $30 there to try to get more books and then get a shipment together and send those out. Anybody can do this, right? As long as you have a checking account, as long as you can set up an account, then you can start. And then number 2 is books are plentiful. They are basically everywhere. There is so there's basically, I've heard this statement before, there's essentially a river of books running through every major city and even smaller cities. And this river comes from people buying and owning books in their homes and then going to donate them, give them away to usually thrift stores, but wherever it may be. And then those books end up on shelves. The 2 big places, thrift stores and libraries, right? Will receive lots of books, which is why libraries put on Friends of the Library book sales, Friends of the Library, and then thrift stores, of course, most thrift stores have books, at least some, and some thrift stores have a ton of books. And usually those books are cheap as well, but that's a different topic. So books are essentially everywhere, but even beyond that, think about your own bookshelves, your family members' bookshelves, your friends' bookshelves, and think about how many books people have, right? Books are a commodity, books are everywhere. People don't think of books as being that valuable in general. Used books, once they've had them in their possession, that's why people just give them away for free, donate them, or just give them away, right? Put them out on the front lawn and say, "Come and grab some books" or whatever, or at a garage sale, sell them, 50 cents a piece, or I'll take that box of books for $5. So in your house, right? This is what I've heard of people saying when you first start reselling on Amazon, just find stuff in your house, scan it, look it up. You can do that with your books. If you have, I mean, you don't have to resell your books, but if you're the kind of person who likes that doesn't really keep their books once they've read them, then you might as well just experiment with your own books on your own shelf. If you've got 100 books or whatever you're thinking about donating yourself, then that's a good way. Of course, friends and family. I don't know how open your friends and family are to you raiding their bookcases and bookshelves, but that's another option, I guess. If you go over to your parents' house or your sisters or your brothers or your aunts and uncles or whatever cousins and say, "Hey, do you mind? I'm starting this. I'm trying out the reselling books on Amazon. Do you have any books that you could give me that I could just get experience with?" I don't know. Whatever relationships you have with your family and friends, that's another way without even having to go out beyond your circle of influence, your personal, familial network, that type of thing. Uh, yeah, right. I see the guys in the comments talking about a lot of good stuff. We'll get to that after I get through these. I definitely want to talk about those. Um, and and by the way, I am currently not. Anyway, we'll talk about that shipments. Okay, so now outside of your own personal collection of books, your friends and family, that type of thing, of course, the other options are libraries. Many libraries will have their own little bookstore, and usually those books are pretty inexpensive. Excuse me, most big libraries, even smaller ones, but especially big libraries, get a lot of book donations, and so what they do is they open up a little bookstore within the library. Excuse me, geez. And so you can go in there with your free Amazon app, Amazon Seller app, and you can go and scan those. It has a barcode scanner. You just grab the book, barcode, boop, hit the button and scan it, right? And it'll tell you the information about the book. And so library bookstores are a good option. Also, libraries have book sales, which of course right now we're not having book sales. We're talking about during COVID-19, but going forward at some point, once there is, we are back to normal there, and we're having regular book sales every weekend across the country. There is normally uh, library book sales every single weekend. Not necessarily every weekend in your town or your region, but there's always book sales. So you have to figure out when those are happening. But book sales are great. Bookstores within libraries, tons and tons of books. Thrift stores generally have lots of books that are inexpensive. So usually, I go to like some thrift stores will only have a couple hundred. There's thrift stores in my area that have several thousand books, all types, fiction, nonfiction, kids, all different genres. Some of them even, a lot of them don't organize them, but many do actually organize them by genre, either really exactly or roughly. And that really helps when you get started with reselling books on Amazon. You can go there and you can scan through those books and see which ones are worth reselling, which you will learn. It's a learning curve. It'll take several months, but you'll learn how to resell those items and which ones are worth even looking at and scanning. So we've got library bookstores within libraries and book sales, library book sales. We've got thrift stores. And the two other big ones locally will be garage or yard sales, where, as you know, people in people's garages, driveways, and their front lawn will put out stuff for sale. And often, many, many times, there's going to be books. If you go to 10 yard sales or garage sales, probably the majority of them will have at least a few books, if not a lot. And usually, generally speaking, people are selling these books for really cheap. Some people overvalue their used books and they're trying to sell them for $5 a piece, and that's crazy, but most people just want them out. So you can often walk up and you'll see 50 books and be like, "Hey, I'll take all your books for $10." And they'll be like, "Sure, take them." Now, I don't recommend doing that as a beginner because you'll end up with a lot of books you can't resell on Amazon. But I'm just saying that books are pretty, they're plentiful, they're everywhere, and they're pretty inexpensive. So you shouldn't do that. You should walk up as a newbie and you should go through them yourself and scan them and look to see which ones are actually worth buying for $1 a piece and sending into Amazon. The other big one is estate sales, which is in the same vein of garage sales, but these are a little more formal. There's estate sale websites where they will show you when estate sales are happening in your local area. Estatesales.net, I believe, is the main one. And you can plug in your zip code and it'll show you everything that's popping up. Of course, now during coronavirus, it's not happening very often, but when things are back to normal, that will be a regular every weekend, every week occurrence. And sometimes these estate sales can start on a Wednesday or Thursday and go into the weekend. Usually they're minimum 2 to 3 days, sometimes 4 days long. And almost every single estate sale, which is just a house opening up to people to walk in and buy their stuff, there's going to be books. Some people will have very few, some will have a ton. I've been to estate sales. If you guys watched my videos years ago, you saw I made a video of an estate sale I went to in a nearby city where this person had a huge collection of books, like thousands of books, several rooms full of books. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I went there and I just scanned like crazy and I found a bunch of good books. And they had, newer books with barcodes and they had vintage books. They had everything. I think actually I would do much better there now because I sell on eBay and I have more experience. But even back then I found a lot of books to resell. So those are kind of the jackpots that you'll come across, but they're plentiful. And by and large, the estate sale companies hate books because they're not able to sell very many of them in general. And they're big and they take up space and their responsibility is trying to get rid of everything. And so you as a bookseller can go in there and you can get them for really cheap. And if you get better at it and you find out different ways to resell books outside of Amazon FBA like eBay and locally, you can even buy a lot of these books for dirt cheap in bulk. That's another option as well. Talking about the books are plentiful. Of course, books are available online. What I mean by that is locally. So you can go on to Facebook Marketplace. You can go on to Craigslist. You can go on to OfferUp or Let Go. All of these different areas or apps and websites, and you can find books either for free, people give them away, or for dirt cheap. People are just I'm selling my 20 books for $10 or whatever. Again, it depends on the books. You've got to get better about it. I recommend not doing that in the beginning, but that's also a way to go. I recommend going in person to thrift stores when they're open. There's books everywhere. You don't need to hassle. And you can scan through hundreds and hopefully thousands of books eventually and get better at that. So going back over, right? Step 2, books are plentiful. They're everywhere. They really are everywhere. And you can get them for dirt cheap or free. Number 3 is small initial time commitment. And what I mean by that is when you first start out this business as a new book reseller for Amazon FBA, you don't need to commit a large amount of time when you first start out. As you are a couple months in and getting better at it and that type of thing, you might want to start committing more time to it to make more money and to get better at it. But initially you could literally, if you're working full time or however many hours, whatever, but if you're working a full-time job or you're a full-time student, whatever your situation is, or even if you are a stay-at-home parent, mom or dad stay at home, or another option is you're retired, right? And you want to make some extra money. There's a lot of different variations here, but whatever your situation is, you can go on your lunch break for 30 minutes and go to a local thrift store. After work, you can go for an hour. On the weekends, you can go for an hour or 2. I would say if you commit anywhere between 5 to 10 hours a week, even if you have very little time, 5 hours a week spread over 7 days. And this includes sourcing and listing and shipping. Most of that time should be spent sourcing to really get good at that. But it's a small time commitment. I know when I first started, excuse me, I went to thrift stores and I would spend an hour, hour and a half every time I went, but I would only go a couple times a week. So I was maybe doing like 5, 6, 7 hours a week. And then you include, excuse me, once I started shipping books in, include the learning the shipping process, which, like I said, is a learning curve. But once you learn it, it's not doesn't take that long. Um, and then, whoopsie. Oh, sorry guys. I wanted to make this a little smaller, but keep it down here. Um, and then once you start learning, getting better, then the more you do it, you want to start. I mean, once you start sending shipments in, you start getting sales, you start to see the results, then you want to spend more time doing it. But initially, in those first few months, if you don't have the time, if you're too busy between work, school, kids, whatever your responsibilities are, you don't need that much time, and that's a great thing about it as well. Um, let's see, what did I write here? The more you source, the better you. Yeah, I mean, right. So the more you source, essentially, which is sourcing, is just going out there, finding books wherever it may be, bringing those books back, and listing them. But sourcing is buying the books, is finding them, scanning them with your app. Since I'm doing this, I probably should show the actual Amazon scanning app. So I will show you in 1 second, once I can see it. This is basically it. This is the Amazon scanning app. And you hit this little button here, and then you can just scan. So you go around, you point it, and you scan. It uses your scanner on your phone, and then the information pops up. Just for all the newbies, which there might not be very many newbies right now, but anybody that ends up watching this. So then that pops up, information about this book that I'm going to send in FBA, and it shows you a lot of information, the sales rank, and then you can tap on it, and then it shows you even more information, right? Sales rank, how many new and used options there are, that type of stuff. So as a newbie, if you can afford it, sure, get the $10 a month Scoutly software or Scout IQ or whatever one you want to try. But I started with the Amazon app for free, and if you can't afford anything else, then that's a good way to go. And so you want to spend most of your time sourcing initially, and then learning the listing process. That's fine. But if you have 10 hours a week, spend 8 hours sourcing and 2 hours listing, that type of thing. It should be heavier on the sourcing side because that's where your money is going to be made. The more time you spend in thrift stores, in the library, book sales, at estate sales, etc., garage sales, the more the more experience you're going to gain, and the quicker you will be able to get through a lot of books. Instead of spending an hour, you might be able to drop that down to wow, 30, 40 minutes once you get better about knowing what makes sense to scan. Excuse me, because there could be 1,000 books, but only 500 of them are worth actually scanning. And other ones you start seeing all the time, and that's not worth your time and effort to look at those. So it's a small initial time commitment. You don't have to spend 20 hours a week to really launch this business. Number 4, big profit margins, potentially. I always like to have that caveat of potentially. So this is one of those few, business opportunities that you can start where the profit margins are potentially really big, where you can take a used book that you spent $1 on, and then sell it on Amazon through FBA, and not very difficult. You can turn that into $5, and that's on the lower end of profit for a lot of resellers who do FBA. The more profit, the better, of course. So you figure if you sell 10 books a month, $5 profit, that's a $50 that you've made, right? I understand all the old timers are going to say, yeah, but there's fees and all that. I'm talking all in, right? So cost of goods considered, all the Amazon fees. Amazon has fees for FBA. So if you sell a book for $10. Well, you probably shouldn't sell a book for $10 because you might only make a dollar or two. I'd say go a little higher. It depends on the book, depends on the size of the book, dimensions, the weight of the book, and those types of things to dictate. There's certain set fees, but there's also ones that vary based upon the dimensions of the book and the weight. So, but you're going to end up spending a certain percentage on fees. After fees, after cost of goods, if you're making about $5 profit, that's awesome. Because what other business can you do that and do that pretty fast? So do the math. If you're selling 10 a month, which if you can send in 50 books a month, 100 books a month, if you're sending in the right books, and you'll learn which ones are the right books. Selling 10 books in a month, it shouldn't be very difficult to do that pretty quickly. So then just do the math. If you're, and I'm saying a $5 profit. I'm just saying if you're gonna bare minimum get a $5 profit, so you sell 20 books, that's $100. 30 books, 150. 40 books, $200. 50 books, 250. Now, this is just simple examples, but of course, not every book's going to be exactly $5 profit. Some might be $3.50. Some might be $8. Some could be $25, $40 in profit. You can find a textbook like people have been mentioning here in the chat that you can find for $1, $2, $3, and then it sells for $65 on Amazon, and then you make $45 or whatever. I'm just guessing here, but $2 into $40, that profit margin is obscene. If you guys watch Shark Tank, you watch those guys that talk about, I put $500,000 on my business. What's your profit margin? How much do you make on each item? $3.23, right? Well, of course, they're selling like hundreds of thousands of that item, but I'm just saying the profit margins are ridiculous here for reselling used books on Amazon. Potentially. You gotta be able to find the right books. If you're finding a book that's can buy for $1, and then the FBA price says, oh, $50, but then you look at all the merchant fulfilled prices, which are the non-prime offers, and there's like 200 of them, and they're going for $6 a piece and lower, and there's already 20 FBA offers. There's a lot of variables, so you've got to pick the right books, and that's a different topic, a different video. But you've got to know which books will make sense. Just because you see, oh, there's FBA offer for $50, for $20, doesn't mean that's going to sell for that. It's got to make sense. So that's why I say potentially, right? You got to get good at sourcing, at picking the right books. You could spend $50. Don't spend $50 on crappy books. Learn about which books sell, which ones will actually sell and make you a profit. Let's see. Right. I mean, try to think about a bit. What's another business opportunity that someone could start? If you're here watching the video right now live, which I know a lot of people are, people that tune in have been doing this for a while, but even you just think about what's another business opportunity you could start today, where you can make anywhere near the kind of profit margins that you can make with used books on Amazon, even just going back to your original roots and just going to a thrift store. I mean, are you going to do Amway, or are you going to do Mary Kay, or are you going to do start a franchise, which will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? Or I can't really think of a business one that is like all set up for you as well. You don't have to create the system. That's the thing about Amazon, which could be another one of the reasons to start or to consider reselling books on Amazon, is it's all set up for you. You just have to learn it, right? The website's there. Amazon brings the traffic, and people buy the books. So you don't have to do SEO, search engine optimization. You don't have to market your books. You just put them on there. You list them. You buy them, ship them in. They go live, and Amazon handles sending traffic to the site. To your listings, or to those books, to those book listings. Amazon handles when you're doing FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. They handle storing the books for you, and then they handle shipping them, and then they handle any potential returns. You only really have to reprice the books. If they need to be reprice them, or remove them, because there are fees. There's a monthly storage fee, and then a long-term storage fee after 12 months, but your books, they should be selling within 12 months, hopefully. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the system's all there. What other business, I'm not saying Amazon's perfect. I'm not saying anything like that. We know the headaches of Amazon. And if you're new listening to this, yes, there are There are certain like hoops, or not necessarily hoops, but Amazon is great at changing things suddenly in midstream. So that's something that you have to expect to happen and not be surprised by. It's not perfect, but they have things in place. I just can't think of another business opportunity like that. Okay. Very few, right. Yeah, and so the high profit margins means that you don't need to sell thousands of books to start seeing a side income come in, an extra little bit of money come in. So, how do you make $100 in the first? How do you make $100 a month selling books on Amazon? Well, you've got to source consistently and send in shipments. Do you have to spend a ton of money to make the $100? You're gonna have to lose a little bit of money because you're gonna send in books that aren't gonna sell. But that's why you've got to really get good at sourcing. You've got to figure out the data. What does a sales rank mean? What does it mean when there's all these other options? I mean, all these other people selling the book. Well, there's 20 FBA offers, so should I send my book in? Probably not. But it depends on the book. What if it's a textbook? Probably. Is it an old textbook? Is it a newer one? These are all things you got to learn, right? You got to learn those things too. But once you slowly start learning them, the profit margins can be definitely really big. Uh, okay, so those are the four. So real quick, actually, no, there's a fifth one, and I'll jump into this. Which is you can make money quickly, and I kind of touched on it a little bit. So this is the bonus one. Is that what I mean by that is you're not going to make money the second or third day you start sourcing or something. What I mean by quickly, I mean is that within a few weeks you could start to see income. Um, so, and also I should say something. Maybe I should have said it in the beginning. Is if you need immediate income, you should probably get a job and not do this. Like if you are at the point to where you are desperate, then you probably shouldn't. You should probably just look for a job. But this is something that, in terms of a business opportunity, in terms of a side income, you can make money pretty quickly. And then, like I said, you can't have zero money and do this. You've got to have a couple $100 to buy books and to ship them in. And then to pay for the monthly storage fees, which are minuscule if you only have 50 books in inventory, but it's something. So you got to be making sales in order to pay for those fees. But you can make money quickly. So you can ship in, let's say I have 45 books that I can fit in a box under 50 pounds. I ship them in today. Now for me, I have not been getting, sometimes what Amazon will do is they will split your shipment 2, 3, 4, 5 ways. But for me right now, I have not been getting split shipments. Some people still do. And I used to get them all the time where they would split between 3 different warehouses. So that would be extra money you'd have to spend. This will depend on where you live, how many warehouses, or how close you are to warehouses, what Amazon needs. Sometimes they'll split it because they want a book on the other part of the country to be able to ship it quickly to people on that side of the country, whatever. There's a lot of reasons. But hopefully you won't get split shipments. If you do, then you're just going to have to pay a little extra for shipping. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Let's assume you don't get a split shipment and you send all your books to one warehouse. Let's say it takes 2 or 3 days for those to arrive. And then once they get them, assuming that they go through them immediately, because Amazon is notorious, or Amazon warehouses are notorious for getting a shipment, and then it takes a week for them to actually go live. Typically, though, in my experience, that does not happen. It happens less often than normal. It's not the norm, I would say. So let's assume that it takes 3 days to get there, and then they get them, and same day, say it takes about a week, right? So then once your items go live, they can start selling. Now, once they start, you're not making money until they start selling. So you send in 45 books. Let's say after they go live, within a week, you sell a couple, 5 books or something like that. Well, those are going to go towards your account. What do you call it? To be paid out. But if there's any fees, it's going to pay for the fees. Like if there's any storage fees, which there shouldn't be because they just started. My point is that you get paid every 2 weeks. So within about, worst case scenario, within about a month, 3 weeks, you could get paid. Depends on what books you sent in. There's a lot of variables. It depends on how what those books are selling for, how quickly they're selling. But you can get paid within a month or so or less if you're um, sending in books that are actually selling. There's a lot of variables, but you can make money pretty quickly. So real quick, let's go back through them just real quick, and then I know people have been commenting. I want to get to what they've been saying. So number one, low barriers to entry, low starting cost is what I should call it. Should have written. So a couple $100 I recommend just to start, and then as you see money coming in, you can use that money to buy more inventory, etc., to keep it growing. I started with just my first shipment of books, and from there I kept growing. Right, I kept learning about what to source. It took me months to learn about or to get better about what to send in, but you don't have to spend that much money. You just keep reinvesting it to grow that business. Number two, books are plentiful. They're everywhere. They really are. It's not difficult to find used books that are inexpensive. Small initial time commitment. It's not going to take that much time to start. 5 to 10 hours a week. Potentially big profit margins, potentially. A dollar book and you can turn it into $20 if you find a higher price book. Trust me, it won't be that hard for you to find that type of book. Should not be. Step five, make money quickly. So I don't mean within days. I mean potentially within 2, 3, 4 weeks that you can start seeing some money. Let me look at what people have been commenting on because they probably brought up some good points. FBA is starting to become too much of a hassle. Well, I don't agree with that because I find good books and I send them in and they sell. I mean, definitely not what it used to be. I agree with that. It's not what it used to be. There's more competition. There's the fees are higher than they used to be a few years ago. The fees went up in 2018, I believe. Was it 17 or 18? Fee apocalypse, they call it, or whatever, where back then you could sell a book, a trade paperback under £1 for $10 and make about $4 or $5, and now you're lucky if you make $2 off of that. So it's changed. So we have Musashi-san saying he does mostly merchant fulfilled and mostly eBay book lots. The lack of buy box in the listing, no matter what the price is, has moved me to eBay. And textbooks, FBA all the way. Yeah, absolutely. Textbooks for sure. You should stick to FBA. I don't know. I still sell pretty well on Amazon or FBA, whether it's books or CDs. My stuff sells. So I'm not going to stop doing FBA. That's for sure. But hey, everybody's different. So yeah, something we didn't talk about is reselling on eBay. That can be a whole nother topic, but for sure. Pat asked, are people still getting crazy 6 and 7 splits? Hello, South London reseller. I am not, Pat. I don't know if you are. Are you, Pat? Are you still here, Pat? Let me know. I am not getting those crazy splits anymore. That stopped a while ago. I did get some splits during when quarantines first started and Amazon was let's see, was it that first one? Right, that first back in April 17th when I had made that shipment. I had it split 3 ways, which was the first time that happened in a long time. But my last shipment, which was a couple weeks ago, it went to one local warehouse in California. That's only a couple hours from me, which is typical, which is what it was doing before the virus hit. So for me, no, those splits seem to have calmed down. Sometimes they flare back up during Q4 though. So we'll see about that. I know that a few years ago those splits were so bad that a lot of people had to move out of FBA and into merchant fulfilled because they couldn't. It wasn't worth it for them to pay for all of those different to send 1 or 2 books to one warehouse, and it makes sense. It's not worth the hassle or the money. Awesome. Look, so Brian says, finished creating my FBA shipment, books and CDs, 392 items. Wow. Split between 2 fulfillment centers, that's not bad at all. That's awesome. Are they? That's going to be heavy though. If there's a lot of books, so you're gonna have to do a lot of boxes. Let me know. Are those items that you recently sourced because things have opened back up, or are those your death pile that you finally got around to? Um, okay, so it looks like that you. Um, okay, that those were at your house. Pat says he never gets splits in Canada. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, those are. They bring up some good points though. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. I've had free train for a while. I mean, there's always issues with FBA, or just Amazon in general, but especially with FBA. They've jacked up fees. What else have they done? They close off categories. They suddenly start um, suspending accounts based on things like, you can't sell that textbook, or they went through a whole thing where you can't sell things new, and now it's just not recommended to sell things, list things as new. Just do like new, even if it is brand new, and you'll still be able to get a nice premium on the item. You should be able to anyway. And yeah, Amazon does weird things like that. They out of nowhere will change a policy, implement a new policy. Now they have this score to keep track of your. It takes all these things into account. Anyway, um, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, I feel like for a new seller, for a new person, I know that as an old time seller, we can get kind of jaded about things, but when you take a step back and you really look at the opportunity to resell books on Amazon, it's pretty phenomenal, even today in 2020, that someone starting out like I did in 2014, brand new, can just step in and slowly learn the process and not spend that much money to start to build up their inventory. Now, I will say that there's a learning curve, right? So if you're new, you're watching this right now, or if you're watching this, by the way, in the future, there are 8 people watching, so feel free to participate in the chat if you're here. Brian says, I think it would be hard for me to not sell in both FBA and merchant field. It seems like a balancing act on how long I'm willing to wait for an item to sell. Yeah, if you're brand new, start out with one of them, FBA or merchant fulfilled. The reason I like FBA is because you don't have to hassle with shipping yourself, storing yourself. But if you have the patience and you have the storage space and you're willing to buy envelopes and that type of stuff for shipping, then you absolutely can do merchant fulfilled first before FBA. But FBA for me made sense because I could just ship everything away. I didn't have to deal with it. And then, once I learned the process and what books to buy, how to source books, then I got a lot better with that and started to make more money. Uh, you don't need a huge inventory initially. I mean, the bigger inventory you have, the more money you make, um, and the more you learn. But when you're just starting out, just try to do weekly shipments. Every 2 weeks, do shipments. Depends on how much money you have to invest in it. But if you can send out 25, set a goal, right? That's another thing. Set a goal as a new seller. 25 books a week, 40 books a week, 50 books a week, 100 books a week, whatever you're comfortable doing, that you have time for, that you won't go too crazy, to balance it with the rest of life. Like if you have a job, if you're in school, if you have kids, whatever your responsibilities are, and the time you have and the money you have to put into it. But even if it's 25 books a week, which is 100 books a month, you will start to see some big returns on those. After 3 months, that's 300 books that you've had go live and go into inventory. And you should see some decent sales, assuming that you're learning. Because that's the other thing. You source books that you think make sense to resell on Amazon. You ship them in, and then you have to also pay attention to what sells and what doesn't sell, and how long it takes for certain items to sell. So, go back in your inventory after you've been doing it for a month. You've got maybe 50, 70 items, books. You're starting to see sales, but you're wondering, why aren't things selling as much as I thought they would? Then you want to adjust your prices. You want to maybe say, oh, this book, I thought it was good, and now look at it, the price has tanked. Why did the price tank? Why is there so many other offers on here? Unfortunately, there's going to be other sellers who are going to underprice you dramatically and not want to make much money off that book, and that'll happen. And so your book will end up having to be sold for very little or gotten rid of. And if you're new, you can dispose of your books. Amazon will dispose of them for you for 15 cents an item, or you can have them shipped back to you for 50 cents. Excuse me. Why would you have it shipped back to you? Well, maybe you want to keep it for yourself. Maybe you've started reselling on Merchant Fulfilled or on eBay or locally, whatever it is, and you want to sell it in some other way. But aside from that, you can just get rid of it for 15 cents. So it's very low cost to get things out of your inventory, get items out of your inventory. Here we go. Sean, hello, Sean. Hear of any book sales being scheduled yet? No, not in my area. I'm here in Southern California. I have not. I don't think they'll be doing that for a while. That's the thing. Library book sales tend to have a lot of volunteers who are typically retired, older. So I can't imagine the libraries would be willing to take the risk of putting on book sales when the majority of their workforce, whether they're employees or volunteers especially, most of the volunteers at book sales that I see are women, first of all. Some men, but like 90% are women. But regardless, they're almost always over like 70 and over, at least. And they just fall into that high risk category. So I would imagine that no, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I don't know. Even people wearing masks and social distancing, a lot of people go to book sales. When I go to a book sale, there's a line of 20, 30 people already, and they open up and there's just hundreds of people going through and everyone's close to each other. And so the only way I could see it is if they limited the amount of people that could go in, but then the book, they wouldn't be able to sell nearly as many. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. Good question, Pat. Have you found the FBA bump, the price premium over Merchant Field has narrowed a bit? Yes, but I've seen from the books that I've been seeing, it seems like from the books that I've looked up, it seems like the Merchant Fulfilled price has started to go back down. In general, I have not been scanning a ton of books or items on FBA or for Amazon because I've been doing so much eBay lately. However, I do have all the book donations that I'm getting, and I will be going through those books sooner than later, and I'll have a chance to look and see. But from what I've seen lately, a month ago, Merchant Fulfilled prices, here's FBA, here's Merchant Fulfilled, I saw so many that were exactly with FBA, whether it was CD or a book. And now it seems because of us being able to ship in items, Amazon allowing that, that now the price there's that price differential now. That bump seems to be back. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I know some of you are focusing more on Amazon than I am right now. But for me, what I've seen is that's been the case. Brian said, what do you say? Not here, Sean. A lot of book sales people are walking by each other, literally butts touching. I don't see it happening for a while. Yeah, usually like they've got tables set up back to back, and you have a little bit of space. Like you're looking this way, and then behind you is someone with their back to you looking at another table, and there's just room for you. And then if somebody wants to get by, you gotta like, okay, excuse me, and move out of the way, and they have to get by. And you're usually standing right next to somebody, another person scanning, or somebody just looking through books. So I can't imagine. I don't see a scenario where library book sales are going to happen anytime soon. Thrift stores, yes, because they can be treated like any other retail store and require masks, social distancing, potentially even, which I know has been happening because I heard from Manny and other people, also limit the amount of people that can be inside the store at any given time. Because I know going to thrift stores for years that those stores can get packed. And so, you could have 100 people, 50 people all together in a store. Even if they're all wearing masks, it's going to be hard to social distance, keep your 6 feet distance away. So they're probably going to, I'd assume, if they're not going to limit people coming in, then it's gonna potentially be bad. Because a lot of people that go to thrift stores, as you know, are older people. A lot of people retired. From what I see, going to thrift stores. So I can't imagine library book sales opening up anytime soon, unfortunately. I mean, my own personal sale that I'm going to do in my warehouse, I just posted. I posted a message on my Facebook page, and I said essentially, because I have some new followers because I've been running that book donation ad for a couple weeks now, and a lot of people that have seen it, they like my page, they start following my page. So I have probably got like 30, 40 new followers. And anyway, so I posted saying hi to all the new followers, saying what our company does, that we 510 books puts on a local sale in our warehouse monthly, and our last sale was in March, et cetera, that we're hoping to have a sale in June or July. But if we can't, to the general public, but if we can't, we're going to have to start taking one-on-one appointments. And that's what I'm probably going to end up doing, which is what I'm doing tomorrow. I have a lady coming out who never went to the regular sale. She just found me through an ad I had on OfferUp for DVDs. But she's already been there once, and she's going to bring her mother and buy some more DVDs. She bought a bunch for me the other time, like 35 DVDs, which was awesome. But when I posted that on my Facebook page, one guy responded and said, "Oh, I'd love to have a 20-minute opportunity to come by and buy some stuff." So I said, "Sure." And I'm sure there's other people too. So that might end up being what I have to do before. Because I think about, there's two things, right? For me, and this falls into the same vein as other people. Just because businesses start opening doesn't mean a lot of people are going to go. I'm sure there will be some people that will go, but there's still a lot of people that would rather not risk it and rather stay at home. So if I, open my sale, do a Friday, Saturday sale, I probably won't get nearly as many people just because people aren't out. They won't see my sign. They might not go, even though they see my ad for that sale. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. But but definitely we have to be careful with that. So I'm going to end the video, but I wanted to mention also, guys, that it's crazy. Like over this weekend, there was something about, I don't know, Memorial Day weekend or whatever. I got a lot of responses to my Facebook ad. And so this morning, I'm supposed to have someone come by and donate 7 boxes of books. Yeah, 7 boxes of books. And then I have 2 appointments, one at 12 and one at 2, to pick up other book donations. So 3 book donations today, which is crazy. And then tomorrow, a person coming by to look at DVDs in the afternoon. And the person coming this morning is actually helping a lady who's closing down a local used bookstore in our area. This is only one of maybe 2 or 3 small used bookstores in the area that I'm in. I'm in Southern California, but I'm not in like LA area. I'm further east, and there's just no used bookstores out here. And this is one of them that's been around for several decades that is closing down. And this guy's bringing me some of those books. And he said, "Oh, well, I have 7 boxes of books and I might have 100 more." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm helping so-and-so close their business." And then he said, and then he messaged me saying, "Do you know anybody who wants 12,000 better books?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I don't know." So hopefully I'll see him today, and there's a potential opportunity there that I could get a lot of books from this bookstore closing down. So we'll see. It's crazy. And I don't know if they're closing down because of the quarantine and they're not getting business, or if they were looking to close down anyway, because I know the owner is a bit older. We'll see. So I'll keep you guys posted about that. Yeah. Awesome thrift store that just reopened. Want to go so bad, but the whole place is probably under 500 square feet. That is so tiny. Can't even. That's smaller than my warehouse. That's half my warehouse. Can't even social distance with two people in there. Yeah, unfortunately. I wonder. Maybe you should go down and see, or give them a call and say, "Hey, are you guys going to limit the amount of people that go in? Because I would love to come down, but I don't want to be in there with 20 other people." So Musashi. Yeah, I know. I know. Oh my God. But like, I have a warehouse, but half my warehouse space is filled with stuff for my local sales. So I've only got so much space, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll hopefully the guy comes today and I can talk to him and find out more information about what's going on, because they seem to be wanting to sell those books, but I'm not going to buy 12,000 books even at 50 cents a pop. I'm not going to put out that kind of money because I don't know what they are. But anyway, he said they might end up just donating those books. Because think about it, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they planned to go out of business months ago and they've been doing it slowly, or if the quarantine hit and now they can't stay in business. If it was me and I was closing down a business, even because of quarantine, I would try to sell that stuff. I mean, I'd be selling online. I don't think they sell online. Yeah, we'll see. This is a bookstore, and he said 2,000 of the books are sci-fi and fantasy, because I know they kind of specialized in that. So another 10,000 books is not that. So I guess it's a wide variety. But my assumption is there's some incredible books in there that are worth some money. But I guess they don't want to sell online. They just want someone to buy all that. But what are the chances that someone would? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Gonna play the music to get on out of here. This has been a fun episode. I'm gonna try to focus on Amazon. See if I can come up with enough topics for each day, so that I can focus on reselling on Amazon, books on Amazon, or maybe even other media. But I'll try to stick to books for.
Flippin' life, flippin' life, flippin' life, flippin' life, flippin' life. We're gonna strive, we're here to learn and gonna earn. Flippin' life, flippin' life, flippin' life, we're flippin' life.
Thank you guys for watching. Yes, have a good day, Pat. I do appreciate it. I just got an offer, by the way, on eBay for a Anthony Robbins what is it? 10 days to change cassette and VHS tape set. So guess what, guys? People still buy. You can't really see it, but Anthony Robbins, any of his stuff will sell, even VHS tapes and cassettes. So anyway. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to have a great day. Stay safe. If you're going out there into the world, wear your face mask, social distance, just be safe. Hopefully you have a great day of sourcing, listing, making some money, or maybe relaxing. Anyway, it's Memorial Day. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Keep booking. I'll see you tomorrow.